Hi, welcome to another edition of Veterans Forum. I'm PJ Scott, your host. We've been running this program for over 4 years now, talking to veterans every month about various issues. Those of you that have been watching me long enough know that I saved December for, yes, World War II, because clearly on December 7th, we got involved in World War II in 1941. The last 2 years, I've been fortunate to interview Pearl Harbor survivors. And years before, I would have various men who were in the military tell us what their thoughts were, what were they doing on the morning, Sunday, December 7th in 41, and when they joined and their journeys through their military career. Well, I've got something special today. Women, yes, women, females like myself, were involved in World War II in a military capacity. I have a dear friend, Marie Brand-Volsky, that many years ago in California, I belonged to a church group of gals, and we were asked to bring pictures of veterans. And I saw this picture and I thought, well, Lord, who is this? Another Navy wave. You know, I thought I was the only one. It's not like I go to every place I go and announce I'm a Navy Waves. Well, it turned out to be a dear friend that I'd had in Bible study and didn't even know that she was in the Waves. Yes, Marie was in the Waves, and she was went to boot camp in Oklahoma. Ended up working pretty much exclusively in Washington, D.C. and communications/intelligence. And she's from West Virginia, and she did over 2 years, I believe, in the Navy Waves. And Marie, this program's for you, hon. Love you. With me now are 2 women Marines. It wasn't just Navy Waves that were in the military during World War II. I have Lois, who actually is a Marine officer. So I think you're the only officer we had in the bunch.
It occurs that way.
I salute you. And then next to Lois is Dorothy Bland, is that right?
That's right.
And you were an enlisted lady, right?
Yes, I was.
Right. Now, I asked the other girls, where were you, what was your family atmosphere, and what was going on in your life when you heard about Pearl Harbor being attacked?
Well, I was in New Orleans, Louisiana at the time, and I was centering foreign mail. Mm-hmm. And no, that was a little bit afterwards, but and I wanted to join right away. I said, I have to go over and do something because I can't see all these men going and losing their lives and we sitting back and waiting for something to happen.
Now, had your father been a military man?
No, he was not. He was not. And I didn't have, and my brother was younger, so he wasn't in it either. So I was the first one in the family to actually go into the service. So you decided on December 7th you were going in. I knew that I would, if they were going to have women. Right, you know. Right. But it took a while because the Marines didn't enlist women for quite a while. We were the last to go in, I believe. Yeah, the Marines didn't always have a attachment of a female, shall we say? Well, they were part of the Navy, and I guess the Waves, they were recruiting Waves at the time. And, and they just weren't ready for us, I suppose. Now, what made you choose Marines? My father came in town and said, Lois, why the Marines are so tough? Right. And I said, well, Dad, they're a part of the Navy, and I think probably the advancement will be faster. Oh, I see. Okay, this is a lady that's thinking ahead to promotions. Okay. And it turned out that way. Okay, Dorothy, what was going on in your family?
I was in Leavenworth, Kansas, and it was a time in our country where jobs were very scarce. And when Pearl Harbor happened, of course, they started talking about government programs to teach people to weld and rivet and things like that in the defense industry. So that's what I did prior to going into the Marine Corps. And what drew me into the Marine Corps, after working in the defense industry, I was a welder, a settling welder, working on the wings of planes and everything, and that was really pretty interesting too, at Boeing in Wichita, Kansas. But I was just a little old skinny girl, and it was really hard. But anyway, I got carried away with all these big posters of lady Marines in their uniforms, you know, and they look so glamorous.
Yes.
They're going to get to go here and there. And
Right.
So I said, I want to do that. My dad said, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't want to do that. That's going to be terrible. That's going to be horrible. I said, you cannot stop me. I'm old enough. And I'm going.
Oh, okay. Now, had your father been in the Marines?
Yes, he had been in the service. No, he was in the Army. But the uniforms, I'll tell you frankly what drew me. All this patriotic stuff was great, too, but I thought she looked so good.
Oh, right. We women want to look flattering.
Yeah, I got to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were already done with school. Now, did the Marines...
I graduated in 40.
The ladies earlier, you had to be at least 20 or you weren't getting in. Was that true with the Marines as well?
You had a certain age, but I was old enough.
Yes.
Now, you had completed college already, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so when you went to the Marines, did you go down there to be an officer, or did they just kind of say, hey, you've got a degree and you can do it?
No, I went down to be an officer because it was the very first officers class that I enlisted for.
Oh, okay.
They didn't have any recruiting officers in Louisiana at the time for the Marines. And the moment they did, and it was announced, that's when I went in.
Okay, well, you didn't go to boot camp like the rest of us. You went to officer training school. Where did that happen?
I went to Holyoke, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. That's not New Orleans,
no,
is it?
No, it certainly isn't. And you can tell because when I got off the bus, there was snow in Massachusetts, and Lois went sliding right down.
Oh, okay.
So that was my
grand entrance, being an officer.
Not debut, you know.
Right.
So I didn't have to walk to the class.
Now, did you leave for the Marines in 42? When did you put your hand up and actually join? Do you remember?
I joined the Marines in 43.
43.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 11 March.
And you, Dorothy?
I joined February the 29th, 1944.
Oh, okay.
In Kansas City, Missouri.
And where did you go for your basic training?
Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
I will never forget that.
Right.
Because my dad had been so against it. And then when I found that sergeant, when she got on the train, all of us, and we had to march to the barracks, she was so mean and so hateful. I crawled into that bunk that night. What have I done to myself?
Did you contemplate that you should have listened to Daddy?
Yeah, and then I said, but I'm not telling him.
Right.
He'd say, I told you so.
Right.
I said, it won't last forever.
How long was your basic training?
6 weeks.
And what was for officer training at the time?
Well, it was just about that time, too. But however, I was in the very first officers class.
Right.
And I was commissioned early.
Right.
And it's a very interesting story of why I was commissioned early.
Well, can you give us a Reader's Digest version?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
We had 2 male sergeants drilling us, and we had 2 platoons of women. And my sergeant asked for volunteers to lead the platoon, and I was told never to volunteer in the Marine Corps.
I've heard that. I think that's true of every branch of service. I think the Marines got the corner market on that theory.
I did raise my hand, and he said front and center. So I took my platoon in close order drill, and we didn't make any mistakes, not one. So he yells over to the other sergeant with the other platoon. He says, my God, Henry, she sounds like me. Well, it was just about 5 days later when 11 from the very first officers class were called into the commanding officer's office, and we were commissioned on the spot.
Wow.
Right there. We didn't have to take any of our exams because we were
But you all had been college graduates, or am I assuming too much there, that all of you had been college graduates when you were...
I think that was mainly...
to become officer.
Right.
Yeah. Now, what kind of... Did you get any kind of A schooling? I mean, what ultimately was your job description? In the Navy, we'd say rate, but what did you end up doing?
It was because I had worked as a welder in the aircraft industry, I mean, inspecting parts and things like that. And it was pretty, normal kind of office work too. Really. But anyway, I was determined to make the best of it, and so I got promoted rapidly. I was only in until about 20 months. And
I introduced earlier my friend Marie. And I mean, she became chief in 2 years. So yeah, nothing like a great war to get you. I was in from like 72 to 79 and only made yeoman second, which would be E5.
Well, I don't know about it. But you know, I didn't want to have kitchen police duty. That would just about kill me.
Right.
I was, like I said, a little old skinny thing, and they had these enormous sea tubs. And I thought, oh my golly. So I spent one time in there. And so when you got promoted to PFC and corporal on up, you didn't have to do that.
Now, what about romance in the military? I had no shortage of dates. I liked the odds. There were a lot more men than there were women. Okay, can the officer spill a little here and tell us? Did you meet a husband maybe in the Marine Corps?
Oh, yes, I did, but it wasn't until I was transferred to Paris Island, South Carolina. At each time, like I went to Camp Lejeune first because the enlisted women were about to graduate and we needed officers there with them. So I went and was with the first group of women that was sent to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Then from North Carolina, I went to Paris Island, South Carolina. And there I met my husband-to-be. And he wasn't there too long, but we dated quite often and steadily.
Right.
And then he was sent over to Okinawa.
Now, did you and your, I imagine the Marine Corps wasn't that much different from the Navy at that time. If you got married, it was the end of your military career, period. Was that so in the Marines as well?
Yes, I wasn't in, we didn't marry, and we married after the war.
Right, right. What about you, Dorothy?
Well, I married my husband. I met him in February of 1945. He was there on temporary duty. He had been, you know, he was with the 1st Marine Division, the old breed they called him.
Right.
And they had sent him there. He had been wounded at Peleliu, the campaign, and that's why he was there. And so, and we married 2 months after we met. But I did, you know, the war ended in August, and so I had to wait another month before I could get out. But I got out when I did because I was married to him.
Right.
And he had so many points, he was one of the first ones to get out. And so I got out in October of 45.
Now, how did your father feel about that? I mean, was your folks relieved? I mean, clearly you survived.
I know it. My father, they sent this certificate about how proud you should be to have a daughter that met the standards of the Marine Corps. And my mother said, like as if I didn't have a thing to do with it.
Right.
And Daddy was so proud, you know, after he didn't want me to go in.
Right. What about you? Were your folks proud of you in the end?
Oh, yes, yes. But they didn't meet my husband until we were engaged. We went down, after Okinawa, he was, came back and he was being mustered out. And I was at, in Arlington, Virginia at the time. I had been transferred there, and I had made captain then. And so when he came back, I met him, and we spent a couple of days in Washington, D.C., and then he had to go back to be mustered out, so we decided that we would both get out of the service then. I decided I will.
Well, ladies, I know it seems incredible, but our time has come to an end. So when you think about World War II, folks, yes, there was a vast majority of the military was men, but we're accenting women today, and I want to thank you both for serving our country during a time where they really needed you. God bless you both.
Thank you. Thank you. So tell you.
See you next time.
Okay, thank you.